Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Bigger on the Inside New Who Doctor Who Watch Along podcast. This week it's another special guest interview with the amazing William Grantham. You might not recognise his name, but you will definitely recognise his work, as he is the child mind behind what is one of Doctor Who's most controversial, loved, and hated monsters, the Abzorbaloff, played by the amazing Peter Kay. Me and Harry were lucky enough to sit down with William over Zoom and have a nice half-hour chat with him about the character, his thoughts on the character now, the show, what it was like visiting the set, and there are some really, honestly, really good reveals in this about the character, about the show, about how the production works. Some really good, interesting things that I think a lot of people will find interesting. So stick around right to the end, and I'm sure you'll find something.
I'm the Doctor. I'm a Time Lord. I'm from the planet Gallifrey in the constellation of Cerberus.
I hope the ears are a bit less conspicuous this time.
You might be a doctor, but I am
I'm a doctor, but probably not the one you expect.
Absolutely fantastic.
All of time and space, everything that ever happened or ever will. Where do you want to start?
Okay, so the first question we got today, Will, is do you think Love and Monsters was the ideal episode for the debut of the Abzorbaloff?
Oh, geez, now you're beginning with a hot question there. So, even at the age I was, I didn't go into Love and Monsters with any kind of expectation as to what it would be. For all I knew back then, it could just be a cameo, which was just a few seconds long. Of course, as a kid, you have these dreams about this Godzilla-esque monster tearing through cities and stuff, and that's the Abzorbaloff. But I obviously by no stretch was I disappointed with Love and Monsters as the debut episode for the Abzorbaloff. Obviously, when you're a kid, your imagination runs wild, and the reality is often very much different to that. So the episode was nothing like how I could have imagined it, but it wasn't something that I had any issue with, I guess. So if the question is the ideal episode, I wouldn't necessarily say so. I think the perfect episode for a villain like an Abzorbaloff would be something with a lot of body horror that really focuses on that sort of aspect, as opposed to the more personal story that they have. But it was obviously just a case of, the episode was already more or less written and they just needed a monster to fill that role. And that's not something I have any issue with.
Because we recently just rewatched it, and despite the episode sort of being this, fans either love it or they either don't particularly look fondly upon it, we really liked it. We think it's a great break in the actual run of that series. It's a great break, and it's just a fun episode.
Yeah, personally, I myself really like it, but I mean, obviously there's the sentimental reasons and stuff. Obviously, I can empathize with people that don't like it as well. I can see why it didn't deliver what people wanted or what people would expect. I mean, I think when you're a Doctor Who fan, especially when it was Series 2 and we were all kids and it was Doctor Who is the most anticipated thing in the week. It's when it comes by and the Doctor's not in it very much and it's got quite a goofy tone to it as opposed to the more epic tone. I guess you would be disappointed, dang it, I got to wait a whole extra week for the Doctor Who I wanted. But I mean, even looking past that, there's obviously, it goes in quite a goofy kind of direction in parts and stuff. And I can understand why not everyone is willing to overlook that. But personally, I love the episode. It's got a good deal of satire to it, which I really appreciate. And also there is there's the whole sentimental thing as well, obviously.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much. So our next question is about, obviously a lot of people, when they create something, be it a character or story, they naturally feel a very strong attachment to it and perhaps protection and pride over it. And I imagine as a child, those feelings would be even stronger. So did you as a child feel any particularly strong sense of protection or pride over the Abzorbaloff? And do you still have any of those feelings today?
As a kid, absolutely. I wasn't as big into the internet at that age as I was now. So I didn't find out until a little later down the line that people absolutely hated this villain, hated this monster. I knew there were a few people at school telling me that it was a rubbish episode and that it was a rubbish monster and stuff, but they're kids and stuff, you know, like, this is what you expect. But, like, when I found out how much people really didn't like it, it did hit me, because I think I would have been about 12 at the time that I really found out just how disliked the episode was. And as a 12-year-old, I don't think you really do know how to necessarily deal with that. And I was naturally quite defensive over it and pretty protective over the whole episode, and not even just the Abzorbaloff. Because, I mean, like, when I got to go visit on set and meet all the different people involved, it's their work as well. It's, you know, it's a big collaborative effort. These people are really nice people. And, you know, I don't like seeing people necessarily get their hard work dragged through the mud at any point. But obviously, I understand that is what comes with the internet now, and what comes with how people receive media. I mean, at the end of the day, if people don't like something, they do have every right to air that, absolutely. But it did hit me when I was 12. Growing a bit older, though, I've kind of embraced the fact that while people hate the episode, they still talk about it even today. Several doctors later, several showrunners later, people still talk about Love and Monsters as kind of either a low point or a misunderstood gem. And personally, I embrace the infamy. Like, it's better to have my my little sketch be a part of what's considered a milestone in how bad Doctor Who can get, than it just be forgettable. You know, I would much rather have, you know, him have a bad reputation than no reputation at all. And even then, I think even those that really do dislike it, they still got a sense of, like, it was just a harmless filler episode. I mean, it's not like it destroyed everyone's childhood or anything, you know.
For the record, I want to say that myself, and as Tim stated, and pretty much all of my Doctor Who watching friends really love the episode. I honestly don't completely get where the dislike for it comes from. Even if people think the Abzorbaloff is goofy, I remember as a kid, I found him really quite terrifying, you know? The way that he sucks people in and, like, faces this gross thing attached to him, that's horrifying.
I mean, I think we're in quite a revisionist era when it comes to how we look at media from the past couple of decades anyway. I mean, it's like people are looking back at the Star Wars prequels, which at the time were considered awful, and now people are looking back and seeing their greater qualities. And I think the same is very much happening with Love and Monsters as well, where people viewed it and were disappointed by it at the time, are giving it another go, and are able to kind of appreciate that. I mean, a lot of things that get pointed out, like the drama between Jackie and Elton Pope, is something that's very commonly praised, soapy as it kind of is. It is pretty well written and stuff, and I think people are coming to terms with that now. Obviously, you know, it's also a taste thing. Some people do not watch Doctor Who for that, and some people do. But I don't 100% grasp why it's necessarily considered as an outright offense to the Doctor Who fan community, I guess. I mean, I wouldn't exactly call it controversial, put it that way. Like, we've had some, you know, big continuity altering events in the recent years, and they're obviously very contentious among certain sectors of the fandom and stuff. I can understand why one might make a case for those being the worst. I mean, I don't think so. I quite like some of what we've seen recently, but, like, you know, I don't really see why an episode like Love and Monsters, which is clearly just a filler episode that was made on a double banking schedule, should be the most offensive thing ever to happen in the history of Doctor Who.
No, I totally agree with you. You touched on it there. The relationship between Jackie and Elton. This episode has a great cast with Mark Warren as Elton, and also the amazing Peter Kay as the Abzorbaloff. Can you remember at what point? Obviously, you were much younger. Can you remember at what point you found out Peter was going to be playing the character? And looking back at the career that Peter's had since then, that must be super cool to be able to say Peter Kay played my character.
Absolutely. I mean, like, as a kid, I didn't really know who Peter Kay was. A 9-year-old doesn't know much about Peter Kay. All I knew was my parents had a bunch of Peter Kay DVDs and stuff, but I hadn't really seen it myself because obviously I was 9 at the time, 8 when I was designing the villain anyway. And Peter Kay is, you know, there's a lot of cursing involved and everything. Not that I was, you know, avoiding that or anything at that age, but, like, it's not something you necessarily get at that age. But as as more information came out, as time went on, rather, after finding out that Peter Kay would be playing the role, I obviously wanted to get to know kind of, what kind of actor was playing this. Not out of kind of a, ooh, will I approve kind of thing, but out of kind of a curiosity aspect, So my parents put on those Peter Kay DVDs for me, and I found him absolutely hilarious. I was like, I am thrilled to bits that this guy is playing the Abzorbaloff. Honestly, I saw it as like a privilege. And meeting Peter Kay, he is exactly like how he is in when you see him on TV.
He's
and
green
stuff.
and slimy.
He's green and slimy, absolutely. Very hairy back as well. But he is as over the top and boisterous in person. I mean, whether or not he was playing that up for me as a kid, I don't really know. But he was a very nice, very proactive person. Like, it didn't feel like he was doing this out of obligation, put it that way. Like, he was, very energetic. I mean, so was everybody involved, to be completely fair. Like, David Tennant and Billy Piper, obviously. And someone that I don't think gets enough attention these days, Connie Huck, who was presenting the Blue Peter episode with me involved. She was incredibly accommodating and incredibly energetic as well. So, Peter Kay, back to the subject of that. Obviously Car Share's come out recently as well. And I loved that as well. So I do keep up to a certain extent with what Peter Kay is keeping up to.
Yeah. Sorry, Harry, I'll just quickly say, in the confidential for that episode, Russell T. Davies was saying that Peter approached Russell to be in Doctor Who. And then I think the story is that once Peter found out about this character of the Abzorbaloff, he was keen to play your character.
Yeah, so basically he was originally offered the role of Elton Pope, I believe. And I can't imagine how that would have played out. Like, I feel like Mark Warren is definitely the best fit for Elton Pope. But and Peter Kay was allegedly like, no, I want to play an alien. I want to play like one of the big crazy Doctor Who aliens that you get and stuff. And he was given the Abzorbaloff of all characters. I believe, though, if I'm not mistaken, one unfortunate thing is that I think Peter Kay does look back on this as one of his biggest regrets in his career. Not out of anything personal, obviously, but I think he thought like he was going to get to do something a bit more than, suit up and run around and stuff, which is completely fair enough. Maybe he wanted something bigger out of Doctor Who. But like, as it is, like, I couldn't be happier with the way it actually turned out,
Yeah, absolutely. This next question which we got is a bit more of kind of a technical one.
Sure.
When it comes to Doctor Who and his monsters, usually what the case is that the monster's created for the show and then the monster belongs kind of to Doctor Who, the BBC. There's some cases, such as the Daleks, where they obviously are used in the show, but they belong to Terry Nation's estate. I was just wondering, with the Abzorbaloff, do Doctor Who own the rights to that monster, or do you still retain the rights to him?
The BBC own the Abzorbaloff entirely. Like, shortly after I won the competition, they, gave out like a document to basically say that, I send the rights over and everything. And I had to sign it. One of my parents had to sign it. And basically, like, the agreement was like, in the minimal chance that Abzorbaloff were to become as big as the Daleks. Obviously, there was no chance of that, but like, in the teensiest little possibility, that I wouldn't be asking for royalties and stuff like that. So, I don't like receive any profit from Abzorbaloff, nor do I own the rights to it. That's completely the BBC's.
Oh, you still there, William? I feel like the sound.
Oh,
I'm sorry. Yeah, I think that might.
Oh, did I cut out there?
I don't know. Did it cut out?
Oh, no worries. I can.
Yeah, it did.
Okay, I can repeat that. No worries. Yeah, sure. So, the BBC completely owned the rights to the Abzorbaloff. Shortly after the Blue Peter competition, I had to sign a document to basically waive the rights over to them. The explanation at the time was in a teeny little chance that, like, say the Abzorbaloff were to be a huge hit and, they need to bring him back and stuff, that I wouldn't require any kind of consent or royalties or anything like that. That was, it's completely theirs to do with as necessary, basically.
Yeah. I think, yeah, and I sort of agree with it because I suppose you're a kid and it's the competition, isn't it? But at the same time, I'd be sort of be like, oh, I sort of created this.
I mean, I guess I think it's kind of fair, I guess, because I would imagine you'd probably get instances where maybe you wouldn't sign that document. Maybe like it's a smaller company or something, the BBC, that don't have that kind of know-how or whatever. And maybe some kid wins a competition, and then suddenly you've got them on the phone all the time asking for this and that and royalties and coming up with conditions and clauses and qualifying statements. You never know what kind of person you're going to run into when hosting a public event like a Doctor Who Design a Monster competition. So, like, I mean, obviously, I'm not that kind of person, but like, I fully understand why they needed to do it because it could create problems down the line, I guess, if they didn't.
Yeah.
Personally, something which
So go for it, Harry, go for it.
Just ruminating on that, something which I think maybe they could have done. I mean, obviously, that's not what's happened, but perhaps if they'd done something along the lines of, obviously, they retained the rights, but maybe after so many years, maybe when you turned 18, the rights went back to you. That would have been cool. And then, you could have either, kept letting them use your Abzorbaloff, or you could have gone off and done what Terry Nation originally intended to do and make a Abzorbaloff spin-off series.
Can you imagine? I mean, maybe there was a clause in it. I have not seen that document in well over 10 years, and I don't think I even properly read it myself. It's just BBC hands you a paper, you sign it when you're 9 years old, basically. But I mean, as it is, I wouldn't really need to do anything with the Abzorbaloff now anyway. He's had his appearance in Love and Monsters as far as I'm concerned, so onwards and upwards to new stuff.
You touched on it a little bit earlier when you visited the set. What was that like at the age of 9? Because that was my childhood dream.
It is crazy how much I learned, for definite, and like obviously it was a fantastic experience. I think that goes without saying, but like one of the main takeaways was kind of being with the crew of Blue Peter as well. We had the director of that Blue Peter episode that would accompany the Doctor Who episode. Ed Wilson was escorting us around, taking us to like the hotel and stuff in Cardiff. And I remember like the drive from London to Cardiff was incredibly long. And I just remember sitting front seat with the director and just talking about, what it's like making a show for the BBC and stuff like that. Yeah. And, what would go ahead with the experience. And to be honest, I was incredibly inspired by those conversations had with him. And then when we got to the set of the show, well, first it was a matter of meeting Peter Kay in his makeup trailer. And I hadn't seen what the Abzorbaloff was going to look like at that point. I'd seen concepts from a previous trip to Millennium FX Studios. But I had only seen, concepts, and I was really eager to see what the finished product would look like. And I remember waiting for hours and hours on end in this little bus where they had other crew members from Doctor Who. And the producer, Phil Collinson, comes out and is like, well, I've got a picture of the Abzorbaloff on my phone if you want to see it. And everyone goes, no. And like, I was just so eager to see it. But my big takeaway with Phil Collinson is that is the smiliest man in the world. I've never seen a person more smiley than him. Fantastic guy, obviously. And then obviously there was moving over into the little back street in Cardiff where they shot the scene. You couldn't really see much. There was a lot of people stood around, a lot of crew members and stuff, but I did get a glimpse at what was going on. Peter Kay, David Tennant, and Billy Piper would take time out of shooting to come over and have a little chat with me and everything. And they were really wonderful. I mean, there's not much more that really needs to be said about David Tennant and Billy Piper. Like, everybody knows they're great people. But like, as a kid, I didn't feel like I was being talked down to by any of them either. And like, I remember I could see the TARDIS, and like, David Tennant showed me, the inside of the TARDIS, and like, obviously it's not bigger on the inside, and I knew that, but it was quite funny to have like Peter Kay telling the cameras to back away because you're not supposed to see what's in there.
Yeah, I saw that clip. It's funny, yeah.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely hilarious. But yeah, no, they were wonderful and charismatic, and it was pouring it down with rain. I don't think you can see it in the episode, but it was absolutely hammering down with rain. And it was one of those things where I did not expect to be as exhausted as I was afterwards as well. Like, it was tiring for me back then, but like I had a fantastic time. And it's one of those things that has kind of influenced kind of what I've been wanting to do going forward into kind of adult life and career and stuff, I've kind of wanted to get into entertainment because of that experience, both with Doctor Who and Blue Peter.
Yeah, that sounds like an incredible experience. I mean, imagine if I had had an experience like that at your age, I imagine that would have just impacted me incredibly deeply, as it evidently did for you.
Oh yeah, it does definitely make some kind of intrinsic changes to kind of how you view your future when you have an experience like that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Our next question is about how, obviously, any monster that appears on Doctor Who is naturally going to appear on stuff like merchandise, posters, lunchboxes, whatever. I'm not sure how much of that the Abzorbaloff got. And I was wondering, for you, if you did kind of growing up see any kind of Abzorbaloff merchandise, and if that was weird to see?
So people often ask me, are you disappointed in Love and Monsters? And I say no. And people often ask me, are you disappointed that Abzorbaloff wasn't the size of a double-decker bus? And I say no. The one thing that disappointed me was that there was no damned Abzorbaloff action figure. Like, that was one thing I really wanted as a kid, and there was never an Abzorbaloff action figure. The closest thing we got came out, honestly, like, I think under 5 years ago. A company called Warlord Games that do a lot of like these little metal little figures that you use for board games and stuff like that made an Abzorbaloff figure, and it's tiny, but I bought like 3 of them, and like, and I was absolutely thrilled to bits because like finally I've got my own little miniature Abzorbaloff. I've wanted this for years, but other than that, there was no merch of the Abzorbaloff whatsoever, apart from a few little sort of they had the Doctor Who Adventures magazine, which was for kids back then, and they had like a little free gift where you get some little rubber fingers and some rubber jelly eyes, and that was their Abzorbaloff thing.
That's crazy.
So that was like very exciting for me as a kid.
That's crazy.
Yeah, no, like they literally, like they had another monster in that episode, which was the Hoiks, and he got an action figure, and he was on screen for like 10 seconds. I was like, what is that all about?
I remember seeing teleads for like Doctor Who action figures, and characters like like Cassandra got an action figure. And I know she had like 2 appearances, but Cassandra's like a piece of skin on a stand. You can't exactly do much with that.
The absolute best part was when they did Destroyed Cassandra, which was just the frame. No skin face in it, just the frame. They can make it. Yeah.
That gets actually again, Abzorbaloff doesn't.
Yeah, I think it had something to do with Peter Kay's likeness rights. I'm not sure, but I feel like they could have made an Abzorbaloff figure without even using the likeness of Peter Kay. I mean, you don't always expect an action figure on like a mass market scale to have a perfect resemblance to the actor. And that was just a rumor, but I think something that might give that credence is at Doctor Who exhibitions when they've rolled Abzorbaloff out, his face doesn't resemble Peter Kay's. So I think it could have something to do with that. But even so, I don't know, it might just be that Peter Kay didn't sign off on the rights to have his face used on merchandise. I'm not sure. I think that's a very backstage politics thing that I don't know much about. But it's one of those things where they might not have asked him to sign off on it, or maybe he just didn't want to be on the merchandise in that way. I'm not sure. It's completely, it's his personal decision and everything. But I wouldn't have minded if they made an Abzorbaloff figure with a slightly different likeness or whatever. Yeah. I mean, it could also be that at the Doctor Who exhibition, maybe that's just how they preserved it, and maybe they haven't altered the likeness. I would imagine that'd be a lot of effort, but a lot of backstage politics there that I don't fully understand, but I've heard rumors and musings, so I don't know.
Yeah, because I'm just looking here while you were talking there, I just took over to Google, and someone has made a custom Abzorbaloff action figure.
Yes, I've seen that. It's got the little Ursula face slab as well, hasn't it?
It does. It's amazing.
It's fantastic. I honestly, when I first saw that, because back in the day, I was always Googling, is there going to be a Abzorbaloff action figure? And I saw that, I was like, boom, there it is. I was like, oh, it's a custom. I can't get that. And I tried to find out who it was that made it, but I never found out. So, yeah, I have no idea who made it. But if we ever find them, I'd love to commission one.
Maybe they're listening. If you're listening, do get in touch and we'll try and get one over.
I would love that.
Now, while we unfortunately didn't get a ton of Abzorbaloff merchandise or action figures, One thing which nowadays we definitely see a lot of with Abzorbaloff is a lot of memes being created of him. He's always had this kind of resurgence in kind of the Doctor Who meme circles and that meme culture. He's very prominent as a figure there. Is it strange to see your character repurposed in that way? And how do you feel about it?
I mean, as I've grown older, I've grown into the meme generation very much. So it's one of those things where when you do have this this big green goofy monster in Doctor Who, it's inevitably going to get memed. And honestly, I'm happy about it. If I know that there was one Facebook group that kind of considered the Abzorbaloff to be the king of their meme stash, effectively. So it's like, that's an honor I'll gladly accept. By all means, absolutely. I'm more than happy with the Abzorbaloff memes. I mean, it's not something I ever really thought about until it first cropped up. And I was like, well, of course, that makes sense. That was my immediate kind of reaction.
Of course, yeah. Now here's quite a momentous question. You've already kind of hinted towards what your response is to this, but I have to ask it. Should the Abzorbaloff return to Doctor Who?
If they want, I wouldn't say no. I don't really have any strong feelings about it. I'm happy with what I've got, to be honest. But if they do want to bring him back, they're more than welcome to. Like I'd love to see more of him. But at the same time, it's not something I've really thought about much. I do remember being a bit caught off guard when the latest series finale, The Timeless Children, came out, and they've got this big flashback thing going on. And for a split second, Abzorbaloff's in there. I was like, they have so much of Doctor Who history to choose from there, and not everything made it. But Abzorbaloff did. I was like, thank you guys, thank you. I'm feeling good about that. There's a little thing that put a little smile on my face.
He's left an impression. Yeah,
it definitely seems so. And be it with the fans or with the cast and crew, it's like I'm happy either way. It's just nice to see that the people involved with the making of the show feel a little more fondly about it than the people that watched it.
I like the idea that if he were to return, after what we've read online and what you've said today, Peter Kay might not be that interested in returning. So I like the idea they just get someone like Paddy McGuinness, just get someone who's a bit like Peter Kay to step into the role and just replace him.
Just get a Bolton comedian to do it. Like to be honest, no one can do it like Peter Kay, so it would have to be a different Abzorbaloff. Like it would have to be a different one from the planet Clon. But like, there's definitely more than one of them out there. So like, get whoever they want to add their own new spin to it. Why not?
I'm going to say it now. If I'm ever, I don't know how this would happen, if I was ever in a position of power at BBC Studios, I would make sure that I would send the Doctor to Clon. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, do it. I mean, like, let's make it a race. Who can become showrunner first?
We've got a few questions here from some of our listeners. Christopher, was there anything from the original design that never made it into the show? You touched on the fact that he should have been endless feet tall, but was there anything else?
Well, okay, so this is something that does get taken out of context a little bit, is the whole double-decker bus thing. It was never a requirement. It was never something that I thought, well, that's an intrinsic part of the Abzorbaloff. So, like, when the rumors went around, I was disappointed. That doesn't hold water. But as far as the design goes, there were a lot of different aspects that were very much reinterpreted onto the Abzorbaloff design. As far as things that got removed, he had these big red bug cat-like eyes. That wasn't in it, but like obviously that was just part of the cartoony art style. I mean, I think the rubber latex was making Peter Kay's eyes red anyway, which makes sense because rubber latex. There was also these melty bits suggesting that he was made of kind of a translucent liquid on the original design, which were emitted but reworked into these little tendrils around his sort of cheeks. So that's something that's been very much reinterpreted. In the original design as well, he had these sort of web wing things under his armpits as well. And the idea is he could kind of stick a person to it like it's a web and then push them into his abdomen, basically. That didn't make it. And the original design had flipper feet, but that is just because I was too lazy to draw toes.
Do you still have that original design?
I do. I have it in a little scrapbook, and it's signed by the folks at Millennium FX Studios that worked on it.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome.
Oh, it's brilliant.
We have another fan question from Sam, which asks, I quite like this question because it really gets into the logistics of the Abzorbaloff. What would happen if you absorbed someone with a really long beard or mustache? And can he absorb animals?
Okay, so as you probably see in the episode, nobody has hair. And I'm basically just making up continuity here, but because there's nothing to contradict it in the show, and because I am Abzorbaloff's creator, screw it, it's canon. So if he absorbs anybody with a beard, the process is that it does pluck every hair from the creature's body while he goes in. And the same would go for an animal. It's a very horrible process. And you feel it. You'd feel it as you go in. And so if he absorbed a cat, it would just be like this creepy, hairless cat face in him.
Oh my god. There's so much body horror potential with the Abzorbaloff.
Oh yeah, there definitely is. And that, I think if they were to bring him back, that's what I'd like to see explored.
Well, that's our mission. That's the rest of this podcast's goal, is to bring back the Abzorbaloff. We will do it. Anybody listening, just find Chris Chibnall's address, write to him, shout at him across the street, do whatever you can.
Oh, don't shout at him across the street. I'm sure he gets too much of that as it is.
Probably does. Just look at him and just say Abzorbaloff, and then wink and walk off. He'll know what we're on about.
Just you chase have the right.
Just chase him, shouting, "What's the matter? Got nothing left."
Team. I mean, I've just got it as my headcanon that the Pating is Abzorbaloff's son.
Oh yes. I like that.
I mean, he does kind of inhale things. That's kind of his thing, is consuming. So why not? You know, he's a little lizard as well. So like, you know, it kind of matches.
He's got an action figure. He's got one coming out.
Yeah, just rub it in. Go on.
Well, William, thank you so much for joining us today. You've answered so many questions and given us such an amazing insight into what it was like to be involved in even just a small portion of Doctor Who history. It's really been great talking to you. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Well, there you have it. That was our chat with William Grantham, better known as Channel Pup. Definitely go and check out his channel. I don't know why we're advertising it. It's got more subscribers than us. You probably know who he is. He does some amazing Spider-Man videos, a lot of Doctor Who reviews. The odd Sonic thing now and again, really good. Harry is a big fan. So this was very exciting for him to have William on the show. And thanks for listening, everybody. Do subscribe and let us know who you'd like us to talk to next.
Podcast scans detect you are not subscribed. The Daleks order you to subscribe. Resistance is futile. Failure to subscribe will lead to extermination. Seek, locate, subscribe.